Chronometry calibrated. The gateway will open in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Analyzing data. Likelihood of parallel universes now at 19%. Continuing analysis of the many worlds hypothesis.
You made this decision long ago. The Empire cannot win. You'll never feel right unless you're doing what you can to stop them. You're coming home to yourself. You've become more than your fear. Let that protect you. Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I'm Gayfesh. Joining me, as always, is the lovely DemonMama.
Hello.
And Moss.
Hi.
And this season on the Many Worlds Hypothesis, we are going to be talking Andor Season 2.
Yes!
And Tony Gilroy was so kind to break this show up into 3 episode arcs. So every episode, we're just going to be doing an arc.
Super clean.
And super clean, super good. If you haven't heard our first season, why don't you go ahead and pause and go catch that up before you come. My words aren't working today. You know what I'm talking about.
Before you watch this one.
You can pick up what I'm putting down. Come on, let's go.
I'm telling you, if you haven't seen our Andor, it's mwah, chef's kiss. We talk about so much and none of us can stop talking about it. It's awesome.
Now, unlike last time when Moss was going into it fresh, we all watched the full season before we recorded this. So we're all kind of in the same boat now.
Although I will say it was very fresh. It was only
it's a new show, yes.
2 months ago. So yeah, it's pretty fresh.
But we're not not allowed to talk about future things. Before we were trying to preserve my innocence. And now I'm like, no, I know everything.
Moss, how'd you like these episodes?
Oh, man. I feel like all of our loved characters are just having such a bad time in these first 3 episodes. And the conclusions, for all of the storylines in this arc, all of the places where they conclude are just so depressing, except I guess kind of Dedra ends on a high note because she's got her negotiation with Edie and, she's kind of feeling dominant and on top of things, although a reluctance to start on the whole Gorman project. But everybody else is just yeah, dude, my best friend just died, or I just sold my daughter. It's not a good time. I mean, I loved it. Obviously I love this show, but I just feel so bad for all of our characters right now.
Yeah.
I love that you're well, the fascist lady who's architecting the genocide, she's getting it. She's having a fun time.
Listen,
Slay Queen.
She is having a good time right now. She definitely is. She got a big promotion. She got that psychopath Krennic to be you're my special little friend I'm bringing in here. Partagaz is no, this is your chance to get out of the rat race,
Yep.
And then she's yeah, I get to bully this mean old lady.
And her boyfriend, kind of
a little.
The mommy dummy.
Yeah, there are so many single shots in these first 3 episodes that I feel they root themselves in your memory. Of course, everyone has talked about the Cyril Karn face planting on the bed, which
I feel it. I feel
so
that.
Wonderful.
I've been there.
I've been there too. Anytime you've been in a tense family drama situation where there's you can't do anything about this. It's forces that have started moving long ago, and you're just I'm out of the room. I also watched a interview recently with the actress for Daedra where she said she didn't know that he had gone over to the room and was doing that. He just walked out of the room during that scene. That was, I don't know if it was completely unscripted, but Daedra was not made aware of that. So, she was kind of on her game, just as if it was very organic. He's just passed out in the other room, which is great. There's that one, of course, and I think that one is magic. It's movie magic, But there's another one that I keep thinking of, which is there's this one shot of Vel when they're in the dance hall, and Groiper and Groipet are dancing in the middle of the dance hall, and there's just this shot of Vel where she looks like the saddest person I've ever seen in my entire life, and every time I see that shot, it like breaks my heart. And it like, she communicates so much about her character and where her character is and how her character feels about everything in that moment. And you just get, it's one of those moments where you just go, it all makes sense. Like Vel's entire character arc, all of her decisions from the first season to the second, they all just, you can see it all in that moment. It's like this character who she's looking at this like disgustingly lavish Chandrillin wedding, knowing that like her girlfriend that she's deeply in love with is somewhere out there, likely engaged in violence, which we then have confirmation of slightly afterwards. But she knows that. She knows her friends are suffering. She's, can presume that Cassian is in danger, somebody she's worked with in the past, even if they have a bumpy relationship sometimes. All this stuff. And then also her expression sells this other side of it, which is just like, it's something that she can never have ever. Like the Chandrillin society would not let her, even if she could agree with the lavishness, their like implicit imperialism and royalty and all of that, even if she could, because she's gay and their society does not respect that at all, she's excluded from it. And she just sells it all in that one scene. It's amazing. I love that scene so much. And I know that was a lot to say about that, but it really stuck with me this time as one of the things that like I walked away with on my second viewing going, that's some magic right there.
To touch on the homophobia aspects too, there's that bit where Vel and Clea are having a conversation and they're trying to get their story straight. And Clea goes, "We're just two single women surveying the prospects." And I hadn't really paid attention to Vel's reaction to that line until my last viewing. That. She just turns and walks away like, fuck you. Like, she's like, I'm not fucking doing this right now.
It's even better, actually. She actually checks out Clea and then turns and walks away. She like looks her up and down and then walks away. I'm like, oh man, that's like being like, bitch, did you forget I'm gay? Like, you're not looking so hot right now, so I'm out. Like, I missed that. Oh my God, awesome. It's so good. I love it so much. That like something that I really love about season 2. And we're here starting our season 2 talk, so it's only, you got to compare it to the first season. When I first watched, I was like, this is not as well paced or as tight, in my opinion, as the first season. But as I've sat on it and now as I'm watching it again and I've thought on it, I think that it is just as nutritious. Like there is just like so much to dig into. There's so much detail just packed into everything. And while I think I stand by the pacing, my critique of the pacing, I do think that like the fact that they decided to change it from a 5-season show to a 1-season show, there was some things lost in translation there. Although I do think it was probably the right decision.
Mm-hmm. Some shows can just go on for too long. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, I've been thinking about that a lot because for people who don't know, Andor was originally intended to be a 5-season show with each season being a year before the events of Rogue One, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And now there's like the first season is like approximately 1 year. And the second season is like 4 years. Each of the arcs is like, it has like a little thing that says like 1 year later, bam, 1 year later or whatever. And
I do love that every time they show the 1 year later, they're playing the Ferrix.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. I love it. Yeah. So anyway, that's the meta thing to understand about this. They decided through production that they were like, well, we're not going to do 5 seasons. We're going to do 2. And there is definitely some like compression that occurred, clearly, at least to me.
Some stuff has to get yada yada'd when you're doing like that.
Yeah, what happened to Cassian's shoulder? Yada yada, whatever, off screen, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
How did they go from Lefty infighting and a bunch of idiots killing each other to Yavin being an established base? Yada yada.
Yada yada. Which that's a little bit of a bummer too, because the Lefty infighting part of the first 3 episodes, the like Maya Pei gang, like they're just totally I started watching this.
I've been on Twitter. I've seen all of that go down before.
Oh, it's so real. It's so legit. It's like, it's so real. It's so good. It's also like a very specific like type of infighting where the infighting actually has literally nothing to do with the politics.
Mhm.
Like they're all just like, I want the food packets. Like, you know,
I'm
it's
in
like,
charge. Go
Yeah,
do
I'm in
this.
charge.
What are we supposed to do next? Oh, you lied or you did that. Like, yeah, it's
you
all,
insulted my personal honor. Like,
yeah, it's so myopic.
It's so good. I mean, it's like, it's also just like, you can see where it's at, and like also how they unintentionally their like infighting completely interrupted a genuinely incredibly important move for the rebels, like as a whole.
They
And they're
killed
just
that
like,
guy.
which rebellion? Yeah, they're like, they kill Porco, and they're like, oh god, it's such a mess. And you just go, oh man, I've seen this happen in real life before.
I will say the first time that I watched this arc, when it was, because I watched them when they came out and they released one arc per week. When Cassian finally takes back the TIE fighter and flies off, and you see the pyramids of Yavin, my first thought was to go, oh god damn it. Has anybody seen The Penguin? It was a HBO Max show set in the same universe as the Batman. Fantastic show. One of the best mob shows I've ever seen. And like, Batman isn't in it at all. There's only like the show starts with kind of like a vague recap of the events of the Batman, because like the seawall gets blown up, so like a big area was flooded, and so there's, you know, lots of people dealing with the aftermath of that. But that's really just to set the scene, and then it's just Penguin going and like forging his path, like, you know, in the aftermath of the upset of the balance of power in the criminal underworld. And it's really good. And the very last shot of the show, it's not a spoiler for what's going on in the show. It's just like, it goes out the window from where Penguin is, and you just see Gotham City skyline, and then the bat signal shines. And I'm like, you ruined it. What?
I think I agree. Like, it doesn't add anything to the scene, and it doesn't give us any insight into what's like gonna happen on Yavin, because of course
there's no
later
connection.
on,
Yeah, we see later, like, okay, Yavin gets established. All right, great. There's a base there. Are we really to believe that these fucking idiots are the ones that set that up? No, they all starved to death.
They're all dead.
For sure.
They're all totally
100%.
dead.
He left them to their death without question.
Yeah.
They were getting eaten by beasts at the end. Like, they're done.
They were.
They're dead.
Yeah.
They're cooked.
Mm-hmm.
It is very, I don't really know what they were going for with that. It felt a little bit like a R2-D2 and C-3PO in Rogue One moment, where this was like some Disney, like, I don't know. It was a little bit of a glup shitto.
Honestly, like, I think Cassian's arc in these 3 episodes is like my least favorite story out of all of the ones that we get here.
Yeah.
It has good things to say, but it is my least favorite. Yeah.
It has the amazing speech, you know, the "you're coming home to yourself," fantastic speech. But that whole sequence with him stealing the TIE fighter, I'm just like, how the fuck did that TIE fighter get out of there without a scratch when he's banging against every single wall? And we know these things are
they
made
build
of
them so
aluminum foil.
robust. Like,
Yeah,
those
like-
spaceships are so strong.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's absurd that he was able to like bang it through every wall of the hangar, literally fly it crashing through a door and everything like that. And you don't even see a scratch on it. It doesn't, like, all he has to do is reboot it once it comes to the edge of the cliff. Like, come on, we've seen Star Wars. TIE fighters are made of tissue paper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the idea is that, if I'm not mistaken, and this is some Wikipedia ass shit, so I don't disagree with you at all, though, you know, from the Wikipedia angle, I do believe that's supposed to be
It's a prototype.
It's a prototype of Darth Vader's future ship, right? Like, that's what they're working towards designing, is Darth Vader's fighter that he fights in personally. Because isn't that the
possible?
TIE?
I don't know, but they are experimenting with new materials. Like, that's the whole plot of the Gorman thing, is like they're
Calcite.
building their ships differently. Yeah, calcite. Just over and over again. That was a fun scene.
Ben Mendelsohn is such a fucking queen. Oh my God. He's so fucking gay in this show.
But he's so good. You know
really
that an
is.
actor is really good when you watch an interview, and I did watch a couple of interviews as well. He's just like such a quiet, sweet guy. And then he plays this character who is so evil, and I love him. And it's like when Pedro Pascal is doing an interview, and you're like, who the fuck is this goofball? Versus like the hardened, serious characters that he sometimes plays. Just such a great actor. I love him so much.
I love I think I played that one for you, Gay Fashion, the one where it was like
The YouTube poop of the Calcite.
Gorman is extremely important to the Emperor's gender.
That was a good YouTube poop, yeah.
Yeah, there's a great YouTube poop, the Calcite.
I feel like if there's anything I can say about Cassian's deal, this arc, like, of the stories, like, I found it the least compelling, not him specifically, but yeah, the situation that they're in. Like, I think the one good thing to take out of it, if like the entire show, I'm kind of seeing through this lens of like, this is kind of telling us something as real world progressives. And the thing that I am absorbing from this arc is like, y'all need to really be learning some base level survival skills. You know, like Cassian, I feel like repeatedly is recommending things like he's desperately trying to keep these idiots alive because he's currently restrained and therefore him staying alive is contingent upon them like staying alive. And like, yeah, you should maybe bank some water, or oh, I don't know, maybe you should have like a perimeter set up. IDK my BFF Jill. So like it just feels like if there's something to take away from that, it's that you know, if we're going to be fighting amongst each other, like at the very minimum we do need to be paying attention to those things that are bare minimum survival for all of us as a group so that we can keep arguing with each other.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this whole season as we go forward is about showing the cracks that are coming under the pressure, the rising pressure, and how like, okay, can that pressure be leveraged to actually forge a mend to these cracks, or is it going to completely blow it apart? I mean, when almost all of our characters here we see them in this first arc, everything that they have so far that they've attained since 1 year ago is coming apart at the seams really bad. Everything from Mon Mothma's financial situation to her friendship and social situation to her home life, all of it's coming apart at the seams. You even see Luthen starting to lose his mind. He's freaking out on Clea constantly. Clea's like, why am I here? This is a waste of time. You have the farming situation where they're living in this farm, like hiding in safety. Now, all of a sudden, there's an Imperial audit. We're seeing all of our characters, their situations just degrading rapidly and then being flung into totally new situations. And the same thing goes for, like, with Cassian. Honestly, we see the least of that for him, but we see like how far he's come as far as being able to adapt to any situation. And I do think that the story as it is does serve to show like one of his strengths is that he can think on his feet so well. You know, everything can go wrong. Wrong ship. Doors don't open properly. He crashes it. He's almost, you know, the thing's all messed up. He lands with these absolute idiots. My partner kept calling them the shitty IRA. And I was just like, that fits so well. Like, like they're like this, like, yeah.
The one guy with long hair and the American accent. It's so rare to just hear like a casual American accent in Star Wars, especially in Andor, because they film in the UK. I'm pretty sure. But like, just hearing him was like, oh man, you sound extra stupid, because he's like confident. He's got that American arrogant confidence that you hear from somebody who has literally never continued education beyond high school. Like they went, like it's like, oh, you're right at the other end of the Dunning-Kruger effect right there. It's just, like, oh, you don't know anything, man.
Yeah. Compared to Cassian, who I think it was actually that American guy who was like, well, we told you who we're with. And Cassian's like, yeah, maybe you fucking shouldn't have. Like, maybe you should be more careful, dumbass. That happens later in the season too, I think. I don't want to get too far ahead, but like there's a couple times where Cassian's like, yeah, everybody else needs to be better about their intel and not just fucking telling people things.
Cassian has locked in. He's committed. Yeah. He knows what he's doing now. Like, it is cool to see because, you know, where we left at the end of season 1 is, of course, him saying, okay, either kill me or bring me in. Like, I'm ready to lock in. And, you know, I do think that theme is carried through in this season very well. And in fact, later on, we're going to talk about it a lot, I think, because that becomes very relevant to the storyline between Andor and Luthen, which I think is fantastic this season. So,
yeah.
But yeah, no, there's so much like, oh my God, there's so much to talk about. So I feel like this season, the first season already felt like such a perfect encapsulation of where American society is going in the current moment. And this season is like even more. It's even better on that. And it's wild to me like how well they managed to portray and write the unfolding of like the anti-immigrant sentiment.
Oh man,
that we
it's so
see.
good.
Oh my God. And it's like, it is the most, they bullseyed it. Like, I mean, I think of the line where there's this, the rapist imperial guy who comes in and he's like, he's 100% cognizant. He's like, oh, the nuances, they need the workers. Like, we've literally seen that exact conversation unfolding right now in real time, like a year and a half after they even started the filming or the production of this. I don't even know. It might have been more than that. I don't know exactly what the production schedule for this was, but I know they've been working on it for a while. But that's this idea of like the people who are enacting this thing. They know exactly. They know that their society requires this thing that they're railing against all the time in order to survive. Like, these farms are set up in such a way that, like, of course they're going to need people who, like, there's no mechanism by which random farmers could ever keep up. Like, oh, we're going to check all your documents, and nobody cares because you're working with these people. Like, that's what matters, is they're working together and taking care of one another. But the Empire sees this as a way to continually instill fear, obedience, and also to source slaves.
Oh yeah.
So for them, it's always talking out of both sides of their face. And we see that again, of course, reflected in the whole planning of the Gorman thing. It's like, yeah, like, we know that we are going to destabilize this planet. We just need to find a way to make it possible with the least amount of damage to us. It is just a raw exercise of power. There is no like semblance of like justification, is pure lie, just to find a way to sell what is raw oppression. And I really like that. That's like such a recurring feature this season, and especially in this arc.
Yeah, the scene where the propagandists explain how propaganda works to the audience. It's just like literally, it's just like everybody needs to see that scene, because they nail exactly what like Fox News and Newsmax and all of these all this ecosystem does to shape opinion, like where people just passively watch it and think that people are just giving their own honest opinions and aren't being fed talking points. Like, that's how that fucking works.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, and it's surface level. It's just one conversation, but like, it fucking nails it.
I mean, it shows it in a couple of different contexts as well, because we see Edie repeatedly repeating the things that they say.
Yeah, that's in later arcs too. Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody is unaware of like what the phrase manufacturing consent means, like any listeners, like if you've ever heard the phrase manufacturing consent and you're like, what the hell does that mean? Like, this is what that is. It's like, how can we spin a narrative that will cause people on a mass level to agree that this thing is necessary? So like, yeah, they're creating this propaganda like, oh, those Gormans, blah, blah, blah. Oh, they're so spider-ish, like all this, to try to get most people to be like, yeah, well, they got it coming when something bad happens to them. And we see that in our real political lives all the time. I could go on forever about it, but yeah.
It's basically creating an information environment by which it seems that there's no other option. Thereby, well, you have had your consent manufactured for you. Well, of course, like, we have to do this. And I really, really, one of the things I think is so strong about this whole season, and that we start here in this arc, is the way that Andor talks about and comments on the role of media and the role of journalists. One of the most common things, and this is something that really bothers me, is this is a big, broader criticism of Trump era media, I would say, is that there is this constant, I'll call it a fellation of the journalist, as this like mythical figure of the do-gooder who's like, hard done by and all this nonsense. When in reality, what we have seen in America especially, but not only here, of course, in Australia and in pretty much every country, but I'm familiar with English speaking countries, but is that journalists, by and large, they have a huge role to play in shaping the narratives that build oppression. That, I mean, you could talk about this in the like Bush era, but I feel like in the Bush era, there was actually, oddly enough, more criticism directed towards the apparatuses of media than there has been in the Trump era. That I don't know if it's the propaganda has learned to incorporate like, nah, they're the good guys, you can listen to them. But it's like, no, like they like CNN and all of these so-called opposition news sources, they sold the Iraq war. They helped sell the Iraq war. They helped sell this narrative of of rampant terrorism and all of this. And we see that now too as well. And in Andor, they're actually willing to depict that, where in a lot of other shows, they don't. It's always held back. They're always like, no, actually the news people are trying to tell the truth all the time.
Well, and I feel like, especially like just a perfect example of how like naked it is in terms of how they're trying to do the propaganda is when something catches them off guard and they're scrambling to figure out how to do it. Just look at how the media has covered Zoran Mamdani. They're terrified of him, even though he's incredibly popular in New York. But you wouldn't know that from seeing any of the newspapers coming out of New York. They're literally digging up like his college application thing where a Indian Ugandan marked himself down as Asian and African American because that form fucking sucks at representing people's actual ethnicities. And he even noted Ugandan. Like he wrote that down on the side, but like they're just like they pointed out his SAT scores weren't very good. They were in the 99th percentile. That's pathetic. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, literally. Yeah.
His SAT scores were like phenomenal. Actually,
they said a 2150 out of 2400 was pathetic. Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, wow. No. So when it's something that they haven't had time to anticipate, like they thought Cuomo was going to bowl over him, and because Cuomo was outspending him like 100-1, but you can see the gears more clearly because they haven't had time to work it out versus say like the average American's understanding of Israel and Palestine for my entire life had just been that Palestine was bad. That like, that's what I was just growing up being taught. Oh yeah, no, the Palestinians are all just anti-Semitic outsiders interloping, trying to keep the Jews from their ancestral lands. And then you actually see what's going on once you actually start seeing the footage coming out of there. And you're just like, oh yeah, no,
there's an obvious right and wrong answer here.
I didn't even hear about the Nakba until 2 years ago. I had never heard that word before. So there is such a control and such a narrative spin. And yeah, it's just, this show is one aspect of it. DemonMama and I both saw Superman this weekend at time of recording.
It's worth watching?
It's great. Okay. It's very good. It does have the problem that I was talking about.
But yes, where they kind of lionize the press. But like both Andor and Superman have this thing where pretty sure both of them were written before October 7th. But I'm sorry, like the Superman, the movie basically has Superman turn to the camera, use hypnotic cartoon eyes and say, you should kill Benjamin Netanyahu 3 times before turning back and resuming the scene. So, okay, for podcast audience, the IDF got my power breaker, so ignore whatever just happened there. All right, let's resume.
Okay, so we were talking about the role of journalists and how like so much of like the Trump era media so far is like I think of that movie like Civil War, the A24 one. And that movie was terrible. It was like hilariously terrible, but also like the entire movie was just like, yeah, journalists they're always the brave truth tellers. I'm like, maybe there are some. I mean, like, no doubt there are some out there, like no doubt. But there are a ton of journalists whose entire job is to basically take from the source of authority the official narrative and broadcast that out as quickly as possible with as much as much legal embellishment as possible to make it favorable to the people who keep feeding them stories. And you see this, like, I mean, it's everything from, like, they literally depict this. We're going to get to this later on. I don't want to do too many spoilers or anything, but they depict this very directly, like the real world phenomenon of police departments establishing a relationship with local news, where local news wants to get a breaking story. Well, the police are the first people on the scene, usually. So the police are the first source, and they get to tell their version of the story immediately, and they establish a relationship with local news. And so local news is always going to the police. And if it ever happens to be an incident that involves the police, well, they're always going to get the first story that's going to be published out to the people is going to be the police narrative. Yeah, so I'm happy to see a show that's actually willing to start, to sort of engage in a critique of that and to acknowledge that. And yeah.
I was thinking too about like the like the propaganda and manufactured consent and like how we view people. This one is a lot more subtle, but related to the whole like undocumented immigrants thing, which I would love to dive further into.
Yes, of course.
The Willman has like that girl that he's dating, and he's like, well, I'm not allowed to go around the house. The mom doesn't like me around the house because not only are we toolies, like we're workers, but also we are undocumented immigrants. Like that. And like they're all, I mean, Brasso's character is like, I think a white guy, but like the two other ones like are brown people. So we're dealing with literal like brown people with forged or otherwise just no documents. And they're doing this work. They're trying to survive for, whatever reason they can't get documentation, whether that's a procedural issue or whether, I mean, in this case, it's because they are fugitives from Ferrex. So they're blocked off from getting official documentation and everything. And so there's just this already sort of subtle but pervasive sense that like they are less than because of their life circumstances, that like they are not desirable. Citizens, yeah. What were you saying?
Oh, yeah. It's like they're treated like second-class citizens. And
exactly.
Obviously we see a ton of people on this planet who treat them identically as one of their own, Yeah. We see the kind of the like guy who runs the shop who's just, he's like, nah, like you're one of us. Like we're gonna take care of you. We're not gonna let them get you. But and we also, of course, we are communicated through multiple points of that narrative. We see the fact that it's completely normal on this planet. There are tons of people working and living there who've been working and living there a long time. They say the last audit was 10 years, and they catch. The Imperials mentioned catching multiple people. Those people could have been living there for 10 years. They could be perfectly productive part of society. But
fully integrated.
The Imperial need to maintain control and terror and to source slaves to build their death weapons makes them invent an outgroup. There is these undocumented immigrants are no different than anybody else. We see that they're no different than anybody else. They work, they participate, they make friends, they make food, they share, they watch out for one another, just like everybody else. But they are turned into an outgroup by the Imperial need for dominance and control. And that the whole arc there is such a painful and yet graceful communication of this issue. And also the ways in which individual, people in positions of authority can exploit that even further. That like, the guy's like, he implies, oh, well, maybe we can smooth over or forget about your paperwork if you let me rape you.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's horrifying. It's genuinely so that whole episode is just, there is a persistent sense of horrific dread. And it is so real because that is one of the most realist current forms of sexual abuse in our society is people who have some level of official authority being able to exploit someone beneath them. When in our society, in our culture, when people talk about sexual assault and rape, the focus tends to be on, like a random person grabbing you in an alley or something.
Usually a scary brown person.
Yeah, which of course, like the random extreme violent explosive thing. Like that type does happen, but far more common is the coercive abuse of power structures exactly like this, whether it's through the police and prisons, whether it's through financial, people who can't afford their housing, and so they have like a landlord or even a family member that holds that over them and uses that to force them into a position. This show does not shy away from that, and this arc, it is arguably the most important and most hard-hitting portion of this entire arc. And I do think it's wild. This is intercut with Mon Mothma's wedding party, all of that stuff, and her basically just being like, it's out of my hands now.
Just time to get drunk and just... By the way, the editing and that whole sequence was phenomenal. Like just the pacing, phenomenal. Everything intercutting, the tension building, And that episode was edited by John Gilroy, the brother of Tony and Dan. And I looked up to see what other editing credits he had. And boy, IMDb just did him dirty by saying he was the editor for Suicide Squad. No, he wasn't. Oh. He started out that way, and he's like credited as it, but like Suicide Squad famously had horrible editing choices, and like that they basically I think John Gilroy actually like left the project. Like, no, I'm out, I'm not doing this. And then they brought in like the trailer house that had cut the trailer for the movie to edit the movie. And like don't do him dirty, he's a good editor.
Yeah. The editing in this, like, I feel it is very provocative and compelling. The immediate thing is that you go, oh, well, there's this like side-by-side comparison, like parallels drawn between like high society and quote unquote low society. Like, it doesn't look very comfortable. Like you're living in like 4 people to a trailer basically. And like, someone sleeps outside all the time, and like, and it's like versus like a palace that has so many rooms that then like somebody flying in, there's like a part where it talks about like, oh, the governor's new ship doesn't park in our parking lot. It's like they came with an RV so big that's like, it's like, you see that, but like if you scratch beneath the surface, there is another like this extremely coercive structure that is taking who I like to call Gripette and has basically put her in this position of like, the boyfriend, I forget his name, Stekan, I think his name is Stekan,
or something like that.
Stekan is like, he's not good to her. They don't know each other at all. They're literal children. There's this entire, Mon Mothma tries to communicate. There's like all this pressure. There's like all this money. There's so much that's like, it is, she tries to be like, you don't have to step out there, all the pressure, all the money, all the preparation. But that is bringing attention to the fact that that's what all those things are doing. They are pushing these kids on almost every axis into a relationship that they can't back out of, even if they don't like each other. Because, oh, look, people spent millions of dollars. There's a one-of-a-kind relic here that was given to us as a gift. You can't just say no to that. That would be rude and horrible, and people would hate you and maybe want to hurt you. So there's like all of this coercion at hand. So like, while there is a clear difference in affluence and in access to resource, the social environment of constant coercion and of social and sexual coercion is persistent across all of these aspects of the empire. And it's a very well thought out like sequence where they're hopping between these edits and putting these two next to each other and seeing how they unfold differently in different strata of the society.
Well, I should also point out that like we've got the 2 dinner scenes. We've got the rehearsal dinner scene at the wedding, or it's the closest thing to a rehearsal dinner, and then they've just got like the community dinner on the farming planet, and like everybody at the Mothma wedding, they're all like scheming Game of Thrones stuff. Everything's very, like nobody's actually having a good time, even though like all of this money is being spent. And then here you got just a bunch of farmers on a bunch of wooden tables just eating food, and you've got little kids running around playing with Bee. And like that's an actual community where they're actually having fun, and they're not, you know, spending money on all this opulence to do it. They have a community because they all know each other and they work together.
It's funny too, because there's also, that's a really, really good point. And there's another parallel too, which is like between the like connection to the land that like, what's his name? Perrin?
Yeah.
He keeps bringing up like, oh, like be connected to this land. And it's like the only connection to the land that they have is that they go on like this extremely structured hike up a mountain and then do a little dance at the top.
Well, also in the house, inside the house, they are married on a piece of grass where like the house has been built in such a way that you actually are standing on the earth during your marriage ceremony. So it's
But
like
the rest has
inside
been
this giant.
flattened.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like this very clean white. And like you said, the house is so big. This house is so big that they've invited like dozens of people, and Lita is able to run away to a completely empty giant marble room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
a true palace.
Yeah.
And-
it's so
and,
disconnected.
yeah. It is. It's disconnected. It shows like the like supreme alienation and tension that wealth can bring. And then of course there's everything that I was mentioning before on top of it, running underneath it, that even all of that wealth can't bring these people away from the fundamental like functions of these hierarchical imperial societies.
Yeah. I'm just really fascinated by how much this show is a woman's story. Like I mentioned it last season, like part of what I like so much about Dedra is that they give her this kind of very well-rounded full experience of womanhood, where they're like, here's what it's like to be stalked by a man, like versus like trying to compete with other people in your job and being underestimated because you're a woman. And then in this season, we're looking at like Mon Mothma and her whole like, I've literally just sold my daughter, and I myself have been effectively subject to like coercive situations, probably sexually, in her marriage. She's clearly unhappy. She clearly has been unhappy for a long time. And like the social requirements of her station of like, you know, the weird guy last season even says it like, oh, it doesn't our position sometimes kind of make decisions for us? Yeah, selling her daughter is something that she was always going to have to do to some degree because of her station.
Yeah, and it happened to her.
It happened to her, yeah.
Because
And
like she mentions that her and Perrin were married in the same way.
at the same age too. Yeah, as children. She's like, I came to Coruscant to be a senator as a child. Yeah, it's crazy. And then like Bix, like the whole thing with Bix, I feel like I wanted to just jump on something you said earlier, that like there's this building sense of dread. That sense of dread has been building for like a couple episodes, because it was the first interaction that the lieutenant had with her that like, I think that everyone is supposed to feel that pit in their stomach feeling, or like maybe this is a little bit of like a, if you are subject to those kind of things in the actual world that we live in, where like a man talking to you that way is like stomach churning. It's like, I don't like this situation.
I have a boyfriend.
And then for her to be, I have a boyfriend, literally. Yeah. So this dude is like, oh, do you want to go to the Row with me? Let's go. You know, it's a little bit of a long ride. It's beautiful though. You might like it. And she's like, I'm married. And he's like, bet. And then he comes back later. And the way that that scene plays out, I also feel is just like so much more visceral and like true than a lot of other depictions of sexual assault. That she asks him, she begs him, please. She's like, please don't do this. Do not put me in this position where I'm about to have to fuck you up. And they fight, and it's really, really uncomfortable. And I also think that it's nice to have an accurate representation of what happens when you get smashed in the face with something hard and metal. Yeah. Like he's basically, he has a traumatic brain injury from that moment on, traumatic brain injury. And then she hits him again, and then he crashes outside.
And hits his head again.
Yeah. And the position that she's in, where the other guy is outside, like, hey, come out of there. I got my gun pointed on you. And she's like, and the bravery, I guess, of the show of using the word rape to describe what happened or what was about to happen. And for her to say that is just like powerful. But then like, what is the position that she's in? Yes, she was defending herself against a sexual assault, but she is not going to be able to, like, she's still going to have bad things happen to her if she steps outside of that room and is like, I'm going to now trust this Imperial officer to, I don't know what's next. Like, she's undocumented, so she's going to get all that punishment and that potential for sexual assault in custody. And then also probably additional charges for killing an Imperial officer. Like, it's just an impossible situation. And I also think that that's the first time Bix kills someone. I guess like 2 in a row right there.
Yeah.
She's very clearly shaken. Like, she shot that dude because he was focused on shooting at will. And then she is just going to have to go forward from that. She's gone through so many traumatic things. And at first I was like, I don't like Bix this season. And I think it's just because I have personal issues with like seeing trauma in femmes in media.
Yeah.
Sure. But like, I think the trauma was already there. Like, she was already tortured. And so she's got the PTSD that she's dealing with. And the show definitely gives her some catharsis, as we'll see. But I also got to say, like, just in terms of all of the trauma of that episode, like, to top it all off, then she finds out Brasso dies.
Yes. Yeah.
And like, I am really sad that they killed Brasso off so early. Like, I assumed going into it, I'm like, I'm just going to assume everyone dies just because that's, you know, that's Rogue One. So that's probably where most of this is going to end up. But like, did they have to do it so soon? We were robbed of Brasso for season 2 because of that. And, but like, even like one of his last acts was such an MVP thing where he runs cover for Kellen and he's just like, you probably turned us in, just so that they're not going to suspect Kellen.
Saved that man's life.
Yeah.
He saved him. Yeah. He saved him and the community.
Yeah.
Brasso is such an MVP. And, you know, I do, you know, it is a bummer to not have him for more episodes, but that's what happens when you lose somebody. You don't get, they're not there for any more episodes.
People don't die in a timely fashion.
No one ever dies in a timely fashion.
Everybody dies with dishes in the sink.
Yeah. You know, something I wanted to say about what you were talking about with the whole like Bix sexual assault and rape. I get the feeling that a lot of the general Star Wars viewership don't really grasp just how real that whole situation is. The way the like maneuvering that slowly, it's like a constrictor, the way some people move in.
He's like, ooh, I just need a little shoulder rub. You have strong hands.
Yeah.
It's like a train. You can just see it and there's no stopping it.
You can see it from the moment that he approaches her with like, he approaches her with her back turned where she's in an enclosed area and has nowhere to run. He's constantly doing these things, and like the positions that he's putting himself in addition to communicating like more and more bluntly, like, oh, I have you in this, the Empire has given me the power to destroy you and everyone that you love. Like, you know, we wouldn't want anybody running off, you know, there's that constant like explicit threat floating there, and then there's all this like false niceness. It is very real. It is something I have experienced something very similar to that in my life. It is terrifying. People who haven't sometimes don't realize what it looks like, but it is one of the most realistic portrayals I've seen, and I was very surprised to see it in Star Wars in 2025. Maybe a little less surprised just because I knew how Andor season 1 was, but it's a shockingly real, painfully real portrayal of how these types of structures of power can be used by individuals who want to get something out of people to exploit horrifically. And also just like the way that people like that tend to approach the situation socially and what it looks like when it unfolds.
Viscerally terrifying. That's like straight up horror. Like, this is the closest Andor has come to just being like, this is a horror movie right now. Like, this is a horrific thing happening. And like, I guess I hope that through that portrayal, some people who have never experienced that can viscerally understand how really messed up it is to be put in that situation. And like, I think for us, it's not just what happens to us personally that gives us this feeling of like sickening recognition of the situation before it even culminates, but that this exact situation is something that we are concerned about as leftists happening right now in this country. And it's like, it's not just now, it's been going on for a long time that these abuses happen and people come out of these immigration detention centers and they go like, yeah, I was being brutalized that entire time. in a very specific way. And it's again, it's like, I don't know when this was written exactly, but it doesn't need to be reflective of the last 3 months in order for it to be reflective of something we've been doing for a long time, and that these are horrors that people really face.
Human nature didn't fundamentally change when Donald Trump came onto the scene. Like,
Yeah. There was a setup.
Well, nor did I would argue more so even than human nature. I would argue, that this type of society, a society that builds itself on exploitation and domination, a society that utilizes complex legal justifications to put specific people in positions of power over others, where they can take what they want and there's not much you can do about it. Or is there? So maybe you do have to pick up a wrench and whack somebody with it.
So to take a hard right turn from what you were talking about, I just want to briefly touch on some of the aspects of this season that are far more like world building and connecting it to the larger Star Wars universe, because
absolutely,
generally speaking, this feels like it's its own thing. But there are, especially as we get into the later arcs, but specifically in this one, there is the character of Mon Mothma's assistant, Erskine, who, if you've only seen this, you'd have no idea he was already an established character. Specifically, he was an established cartoon character. He shows up in several episodes of Star Wars Rebels, because Mon Mothma is also in Rebels. But, and this is key, Dave Filoni, the show doesn't assume that you know that, and it doesn't operate on like as if having that knowledge actually changes anything about that performance. He's there to service the story, and we'll see more of him later. He's introduced here, so I just wanted to touch on that real quick. That Dave Filoni, you can't just build a show on, hey guys, this was in a cartoon.
Yeah, most people are not going to have seen a lot of these like tertiary properties. Like, I was just watching the prequels this weekend with my partner, and there's like, the whole Clone Wars series happens in between movies 2 and 3. And it's like, I haven't seen any of that shit. You can't assume that people have seen that. So like, make your movie. And like, of course, Clone Wars literally came later. But so you can't make something now that assumes that you've seen all 7 seasons of the Clone Wars. That's just not reasonable.
Yeah. Also, the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars is awesome. And
that's great.
And very easy to watch in comparison to the 9,000 episodes.
There's good stuff in the 3D Clone Wars.
I know. There's some good ones.
3 years of slop.
Yes, that's very true.
But anyway, with that, that was a good talk on the first arc. We will see you guys next time with the episodes 4 through 6 of season 2. So with that, I've been Gayfesh.
I'm Moss.
I'm DemonMama.
And we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.